87% of B2B sales teams are struggling to meet their targets right now. And if you think that's just a rough patch, something the market will sort out on its own, I want you to pay close attention to this video. Because what's happening right now isn't just a dip. It is a fundamental shift in how B2B buyers make decisions. And the sales teams that don't adapt to it, they're going to keep missing quota. Now, I'm not saying this to scare you. I'm saying this because I have spent the last 5 years deep diving into this very problem. Now, I've worked with over 100 sales teams across more than 20 countries and dozens of different industries, from SaaS to manufacturing and professional services. What I can tell you from what I've experienced is this: what used to work at the top side of your sales funnel has changed, and most sales teams have not yet adapted to this change. So in this video, I'm going to break down 3 things. 1. Why the B2B buyer has fundamentally changed, and why most sales reps are still operating in a world that no longer exists. 2. The data behind why proactive sales reps are outperforming reactive ones, and what it actually means for how you spend your day. And 3, I'm going to share 3 practical tips that will make any B2B sales rep successful, backed by the numbers that prove it. And look, whether you're a sales rep yourself or you manage a sales team, this video is going to help you change how you think about pipeline growth. So let's get into it. All right, let's start with the uncomfortable truth. The buyer you're trying to reach in 2026 is not the same buyer you were selling to 3 years ago. And here's what we know. 91% of buyers come to the first sales meeting already familiar with vendors, and 85% have largely established their purchasing requirements way before ever speaking to a salesperson. Let it sink in. By the time your rep gets on a prospect's call, that prospect has already done their homework. They've already visited your website, read your case studies, maybe watched your YouTube videos. They've already formed an opinion, and in many cases, they've already built a shortlist. And they're just using that conversation with your rep to validate the decision they probably already have made. So for inbound, the game is almost over before it starts. If you're not already on their shortlist, you're not in the running. But here's where it's get even more interesting. 61% of B2B buyers now say they prefer a completely rep-free buying experience. And 71% actively avoid sales reps that send irrelevant outreach. It means that the old way of showing up, the cold call out of nowhere, the generic email blast, the LinkedIn pitch on the first message, that approach doesn't just fail, it actively pushes buyers away. And yet, most sales teams are still running that exact playbook. So the question isn't whether to do outbound. The question is, how do you do outbound in a way that earns trust instead of destroying it? 53% of sales professionals say selling is harder now than it was a year ago. And research shows that buyers are taking longer to make purchasing decisions than they did in 2020. And on top of all of that, buying committees have exploded. The average B2B deal now involves 8 to 12 decision makers, each with their own priorities, their own concerns, and their own approval process. So here's the picture. Your buyer is more informed than ever, more skeptical than ever, harder to reach than ever, and surrounded by more internal stakeholders than ever. And in the middle of all of that, your sales rep is spending only 28% of their time actually selling. The rest, they're busy with admin, data entry, tool switching, CRM updates. So we've got a buyer who doesn't want to be sold to, and a sales rep who barely has time to sell in the first place. And if you're still asking your team to brute force their way through it with volume and cold outreach, you're fighting a losing battle. All right, let's take a moment here before you're gonna get depressed. Because there is good news. There's a very clear pattern emerging in the data about what actually works. And that's what we're gonna be talking about next. When faced with a harder market, most teams double down on volume. More emails, more calls, more automation, more messages. And I mean, in your defense, the logic seems obvious. If fewer people are responding, we need to reach more people. But the data tells us something completely different. Between 70 to 83% of all sales opportunities are reactive, meaning the buyer comes to the seller. The buyer is raising their hand. And this is because over the past 10 years, companies have invested a lot in online marketing, and for good reason. But here's the kicker. Inbound opportunities only close at 80 to 25%. But when we look at the close rate of outbound opportunities, you will rethink everything. Proactive opportunities, where the seller initiated, added value first and earned the right to start a conversation, they close at 33 to 41%, nearly double the win rate. Now, when I saw these numbers for the first time, it confirmed everything I have been experiencing with our successful clients. The deals they win mostly were not the ones where someone replied to a mass email. They were the ones where the sales reps had already shown up in the prospect's world. They created trust and initiated the first meeting. And that's a key distinction. Proactive selling is not only about doing more outreach, it is about doing smart outreach with a focus on earning attention before asking for anything. It is about being visible, being valuable, and being relevant. And what's the best vehicle for doing this at scale in business to business? Social selling. 79% of salespeople who engage in social selling, they outsell their peers who don't. And when we look at the response rate, 42% of salespeople say social media delivers the highest cold outreach response rate. So let me put this together for you in a practical sense. Your buyer is already on LinkedIn. The data proves that social selling works. The win rates are nearly double, and not many sales teams are doing it with the right strategy. Alright, so now you understand the landscape. The buyer has changed, proactive beats reactive, social selling works. But what does this actually look like in practice? Let me give you 3 tips. These are the 3 things we teach every sales rep who starts at the Link Group. They're simple, they're practical, and they are backed by everything we just covered. So grab a pen and join me. Tip 1. Treat LinkedIn like a business event. So here's the question. If you were at a networking dinner and you walk up to someone you've never met, would you immediately start pitching your product? Probably not. You would introduce yourself, you would ask a question, and you would have a normal human conversation. LinkedIn is like that dinner, but most reps treat it like a billboard. They connect and immediately pitch, and the buyer feels this. The moment they feel it, the wall goes up. So here's the rule. At no point in your outreach should you talk about how amazing your company or product is. Not in message 1, not in message 2, not until the prospect brings it up. Your job is to be genuinely curious. Ask questions, start a conversation, be the person at the event that every person actually wants to be talking to. Alright, tip number 2. Use automation for reach, but stay human at the relationship level. You can build relationships at scale by writing every single message from scratch. That's where smart automation comes in. And that's actually exactly what we help companies do at The Link. We run effective, high-volume outreach campaigns on LinkedIn and through email. But here is the key. Automation handles the reach, but the human handles the relationship building. That means your first outreach sequence should be targeted, relevant, and designed to start a conversation, not to close a deal. Ask a question they actually want to answer. Reference something specific to their world. And end with a soft ask. Would love to hear your perspective. Will always outperform. Are you free on Thursday at 2? And when someone replies, that's a handshake. That's where the human takes over. Don't switch into pitching mode. Engage like a real person. The meeting will come, but only if the prospect feels like they're talking to someone who's genuinely interested, not someone who's trying to hit their targets, because they will know. So here's my final tip. Develop a golden question. A golden question is the one question you deliberately steer every intro conversation towards, because the answer tells you almost everything you need to know. And I will give you an example. At the Link Group, ours is, does the relationship you have with your buyers play a fundamental role in the business that you're building? And that single answer tells us if the prospect values what we do, if the timing is right, and if there's a real deal worth pursuing. So find your version of that question. Because when your reps know what to listen for, they will stop wasting time on dead-end meetings, and they will start filling the pipeline with deals that actually close. Oh, and one last thing, I highly recommend reading the following book, How to Become a Rainmaker by Jeffrey J. Fox. Shout out. It's short, it's sharp, and it will change the way your reps show up in every single conversation. I hope you liked this video. Drop a comment below and tell me, what's the biggest challenge you're facing at the top of your funnel right now? I will read every single comment, and I might build a future video around your question. If you found this valuable, hit the subscribe button. And if you want to go deeper, check out our upcoming Lunch and Learn events at link.group. I would love to continue this conversation in person. I'll see you in the next one.